My son sent me an 8-second voice note, whispering, "Mum, don't trust Lila." 2 hours later, his phone went dead. When I opened my bank account, a strange company called Harborline Equity Group had been authorized to withdraw $95,000. The signature was mine, but I'd never signed anything. The police called it a single vehicle accident. I knew it was a warning. And if they wanted me silent, they'd picked the wrong 68-year-old mother. My name is Margaret Whittaker Maggie, to anyone who's known me longer than 5 minutes and at 68. I thought I'd seen enough corporate backstabbing during my 30 years at Northridge Freight to recognize a snake when I saw one. But snakes in the office wear suits. The one in my family wore designer yoga pants and called me Mom. That cold October afternoon in Bozeman started like any other. I was sorting through Medicare statements at my kitchen table when my phone buzzed. Aaron's face lit up the screen, a photo from last Christmas, him laughing at something his wife had said. The notification showed a voice message, just 8 seconds long. I pressed play. "Mum, don't trust Lila. The papers are in the bottom drawer." His voice was barely a whisper, urgent and strange. In the background, I heard a door opening, a woman's voice too distant to make out the words. Then nothing. The message ended. I played it 3 more times. Each listen made my stomach tighten further. Aaron never left cryptic messages. He was my straightforward son, the one who'd inherited my intolerance for drama. If he was whispering warnings about his wife of 3 years, something was very wrong. The drive to their house took 12 minutes. I knew because I watched every second tick by on my dashboard clock, that voice message looping in my head. The bottom drawer of what his office desk, the filing cabinet. When I pulled into my driveway afterward, I'd found nothing at their place. Lila, having mysteriously appeared just as I'd arrived, a bank envelope was wedged between my screen and front door. My hands shook as I opened it. Beneficiary update confirmation for my retirement account. The contact email listed was Maggie. Outlook.com. Whittaker. They'd misspelled my own name. I was still staring at the paper when Lila's white Tesla pulled up. She got out with that practiced smile that never quite reached her eyes, her blonde hair perfect, despite the wind that was making my own grey strands whip around my face. "Maggie, perfect timing. I need to borrow your garage for a few hours." She didn't wait for an answer, already heading toward the side door. "Just some boxes for the charity drive. Aaron said you wouldn't mind." The way she said it, like she owned the place. Like Aaron's permission was all that mattered, made my teeth clench. But what really caught my attention was how she deliberately positioned herself between me and my car, where Aaron sat in the passenger seat. His head turned away. "Aaron," I called out. He glanced over, and for just a second, our eyes met. The look on his face, confused, trapped, desperate. Then Lila's hand was on his window, tapping twice their little signal, and he turned away again. "He's exhausted," Lila said, her voice honey-sweet with an edge of warning. "Big presentation tomorrow. You know how he gets." I did know how he got focused, determined, maybe a little stressed, but never this hollow-eyed stranger who couldn't meet his mother's gaze. After they left, I sat at my computer and logged into my bank account, my retirement fund, the corporate 401k I'd rolled over after leaving Northridge. It should have shown $347,000. Should have. Instead, there was a pending authorization. Harborline Equity Group, $95,000. The timestamp showed 2:17 3 nights ago. The IP address was from Billings, 2 hours east. I'd been asleep in my bed at 2:17 a.m. I hadn't been in Billings in 6 months. My fingers flew across the keyboard, searching for Harborline Equity Group. Nothing. No website. No corporate filing in Montana. Nothing but a ghost entry in my bank's system showing they now had authorization to manage a portion of my retirement funds. The voice message played again in my mind. The bottom drawer. Not at Aaron's house. Here. My house. Where he'd grown up. Where he still had a key. Where he knew I kept important documents in the antique desk that had been his grandfather's. The drawer was stuck. It always was in October when the wood swelled from the moisture. When I finally yanked it open, a manila folder sat on top of my old tax returns. Aaron's handwriting on the tab, Mom Urgent. Inside were printed emails, none addressed to me. They were between Lila and someone at Harborline, discussing the rollover opportunity and limited window for authorization. One mentioned that A remains unaware of full scope. Aaron Whitaker. The last page was a spreadsheet printed from what looked like Lila's computer. Columns labelled Harborline Advance, rollover 95K plus 20K, with arrows pointing to Sable Ridge Creative and Operating Capital Phase 1. At the bottom, in Aaron's shaking handwriting, she made me practice your signature. I'm sorry. Get out of the accounts now. My phone rang. Aaron's number. But it was Lila's voice that answered. Aaron's sleeping. Don't make this complicated. Maggie. Just don't. The line went dead. When I tried calling back, it went straight to voicemail. The first time I met Lila Carter, she'd orchestrated everything perfectly. Aaron brought her to Thanksgiving dinner 3 years ago, and within 10 minutes, she was helping in the kitchen like she'd been part of the family for decades. By dessert, she'd complimented my turkey recipe, asked about my retirement plans, and offered to help me modernize my finances. Everything's digital now. Mom, Aaron had said, his face bright with new love. Lila handles social media marketing for Fortune 500 companies. She really knows this stuff. She did know her stuff. Within 6 months, she'd helped me set up online banking, added herself as an authorized user on my credit card for emergencies, and convinced Aaron to put her name on his car title for insurance purposes. Each time, it was presented as the smart, efficient choice. Each time, Aaron would say, "Just sign here, Mum. Lila's already explained everything." The memories felt different now. Sitting in my kitchen at 11 p.m., staring at those printed emails, I remembered the day Lila had brought over investment opportunities for us to review together. How she'd pulled out forms already partially filled out. Yellow sticky notes marking where to sign. "Just to expedite things," she'd said. "You know how slow banks can be." I thought about Aaron's behavior over the past few months. The weight loss. The way he'd started arriving late to our weekly lunches, always with Lila's lipstick on his cheek and her perfume clinging to his clothes. Once, he'd whispered something that hadn't made sense at the time. "Mum, Lila's starting this agency, Sable Ridge Creative. There's so much money moving around. I can't keep track of it all." When I'd asked if he was comfortable with the financial arrangements, he'd laughed, but it was hollow. "She handles all that. Says I need to focus on my job while she builds our empire." Our empire. Not their empire. Ours. Like he was just along for the ride. The folder Aaron left contained more than just emails. There were bank statements showing transfers from accounts I didn't recognize into Sable Ridge Creative. wire transfers to Northwest Mutual Credit, then immediately out again to something called Chi Group Holdings. The amounts varied 15,000 here, 23,000 there, but they all originated from joint accounts Aaron shared with Lila. One document made my blood run cold. It was a power of attorney form, dated 2 weeks ago. My signature was at the bottom, witnessed and notarized. Except I'd been in Spokane that entire week, visiting my sister recovering from hip surgery. I had receipts, hotel confirmations, even photos with timestamps. But there was my signature, perfect and precise. Too perfect, actually. When you sign your name thousands of times over 30 years of contracts and shipping manifests, you develop quirks. My G always drooped below the line. This one sat perfectly straight. I found more examples in the draw practice sheets in Aaron's handwriting. My name written over and over, each attempt getting closer to the real thing. At the bottom of one page, he'd written, "I can't do this anymore." My phone buzzed. A text from Lila. "Aaron and I need some space from family drama. Please don't contact us for a while. This is what's best for everyone." Space from family drama. She was stealing my retirement and calling it drama. I pulled up Aaron's Find My Phone location. It showed him at home. But when I drove by their house at midnight, his car wasn't there. Only Lila's Tesla, charging in the garage I could see through the window. The house was dark, except for the blue glow of a laptop screen in the front room. Back home. I kept searching through the documents. There were more transfers, more forged signatures, more shell companies. Harborline Equity Group appeared to be registered in Delaware with a virtual office address. The registered agent was listed as S., Carter Lila's maiden name. A sticky note in Aaron's writing was stuck to the back of one page. "She monitors my phone. Can't call. Don't trust any texts from me unless they have our code word." Our code word. From when he was little, and I'd pick him up from school. If anyone else came to get him, they needed to know the word butterscotch. We'd laughed about it when he got older, but never officially retired it. None of his recent texts had mentioned butterscotch. Not one. At 2A, I found the worst of it. A document titled Rollover Authorization for my entire retirement account, not just the 95,000. The effective date was next Monday, 4 days away. Once it went through, Lila would control everything I'd worked 30 years to save. I picked up my phone to call the police, then stopped. Call them with what my son's wife had helped me modernize my banking. I'd signed forms, even if I didn't remember all of them. Aaron was a grown man who could make his own choices. Without him here to confirm the forgeries, to explain the practice signatures, what did I really have? The voice message. That 8-second warning was all I had of my son's real voice, his real fear. I played it one more time. "Mum, don't trust Lila. The papers are in the bottom drawer." Then I started making my own plan. If she wanted to play with documents and signatures and digital transfers, she'd picked the wrong retirement-aged freight coordinator. I'd spent 3 decades tracking shipments through 17 countries, dealing with customs fraud, and catching employees who thought they were smarter than the system. Lila Carter was about to learn what Aaron already knew. His mother didn't give up, didn't back down, and definitely didn't lose. The call came at 3:47 A. Not from Aaron's phone, but from the Gallatin County Sheriff's Office. The words didn't make sense at first. Single vehicle accident. Hyalite Canyon Road. Deceased at the scene. I made them repeat it 3 times before my legs gave out. Aaron was gone. They said he'd been driving up the canyon road around midnight, lost control on a curve, went through the guardrail. No skid marks, no evidence of another vehicle. The deputy's voice was kind but firm. These mountain roads can be treacherous at night, ma'am, especially when someone's tired. Tired. My son, who'd driven that road 100 times, who was obsessive about car maintenance, who'd texted me just last month about getting new tires for better grip, that Aaron had simply driven off a cliff. By the time I reached the sheriff's office, Lila was already there. Her performance was flawless designer jacket thrown over pajamas. Makeup, somehow perfect, despite the tears streaming down her face. She collapsed against me in the waiting room, sobbing loud enough for everyone to hear. "Oh, Maggie, I can't believe he's gone. We had a little argument and he stormed out. I should have stopped him. I should have..." She broke off into more theatrical sobs. A little argument. I felt the folder of documents burning in my purse. But this wasn't the time. Not with deputies watching. Not with Lila's fingers digging into my arms like claws. The next 3 days blurred together. Funeral arrangements, where Lila insisted on the most expensive everything. Visits from Aaron's co-workers, who all mentioned how stressed he'd seemed lately. The medical examiner's preliminary report, blood alcohol level 0.00, no drugs, no signs of medical emergency, just a tragic accident. But I kept thinking about that voice message, the fear in his whisper, the papers he'd hidden. The timing 4 days before the complete rollover of my retirement was scheduled. On the day of the funeral, Lila pulled me aside in the church vestibule. Her grief-stricken facade slipped for just a moment as she handed me a stack of papers. "We need to handle the estate matters quickly," she said, her voice businesslike. "These are just formalities, disbursement for funeral costs, temporary power of attorney so I can handle Aaron's affairs. Standard procedure." I looked at the papers. The disbursement form seemed straightforward until I reached the 3rd page, where temporary power of attorney had been expanded to include management of all associated family financial instruments. The signature line had a yellow sticky note, "Sign here." "I'll need to read these first," I said. Her eyes hardened. "The funeral home needs payment authorization today, unless you'd prefer to delay your son's burial. I'll pay the funeral home directly." That's not how Aaron would have wanted it. She leaned closer, her perfume suffocating. "He set everything up to go through our family trust, Sable Ridge Creative's business account. It's all interconnected now." Interconnected. My retirement, Aaron's accounts, all flowing into her company. I said I need to read them first. She straightened, and for a second, I saw something cold flicker across her face. Then the tears returned. "You're really going to make this difficult. Now your son is in a casket 20 feet away, and you're concerned about paperwork." People were starting to stare. Lila raised her voice just enough. "I'm trying to help you through this, Mom. Just like Aaron asked me to." Mom. She'd never called me that when he was alive. I walked away, leaving her standing there with her unsigned papers. Let people stare. Let them think I was a heartless mother. I had work to do. That evening, I went back to the canyon road. The accident site was marked with broken guardrail and scored earth where Aaron's car had gone over. I stood there as the sun set, trying to understand how he could have missed that curve. An old pickup truck pulled over. The driver, a local named Tom, who worked for the Forest Service, recognized me from the obituary in the paper. "I'm real sorry about your boy," he said. "This is a bad spot." But he hesitated, But what? Well, I was up here that night, checking on the campgrounds. Passed this spot around 11:30. There was already a car pulled off right about here, silver SUV, maybe grey. Thought it was strange. Someone sitting in the dark with their lights off. Did you see the driver? No, ma'am. But when I came back down around 1, it was gone. Your son's accident happened just after midnight. Right. A silver SUV. Lila drove a white Tesla. But Sable Ridge Creative had a company vehicle she sometimes used for client meetings. A silver Audi Q7. I thanked Tom and drove home, where I found more documents slipped under my door. The funeral disbursement forms, now with urgent stamped in red. A note from Lila: the funeral home is threatening to cancel services. Stop destroying Aaron's memory with your stubbornness. I looked closer at the forms. The funeral home's letterhead was slightly off. The phone number had one wrong digit. The signature line for the funeral director was electronic, supposedly signed via e-notary through a company called Kramer and Bell Legal Services. Helena Branch. I called the funeral home directly. They confirmed payment had already been received in full from Lila's personal account. They'd never sent any urgent payment requests. The forms weren't about funeral costs. They were about completing the takeover of my accounts, using Aaron's death as cover. I set the papers aside and opened my laptop. The rollover authorization for my retirement was still pending, now showing 2 days until completion. But there was a new note in the system: account holder deceased, awaiting beneficiary verification. Deceased. They'd marked me as dead in the system. My phone rang. Lila. You're making this very difficult. Maggie. Aaron had plans, financial structures he put in place. You're interfering with his wishes. Aaron's wishes or yours? A pause. Then, quietly. You should have just signed the papers. It would have been so much simpler. Now, well, grief makes people do terrible things. Sometimes they have accidents. Sometimes they take too many pills. Sometimes they just disappear. The line went dead. I looked at the folder Aaron had hidden, at his practice signatures, at the evidence of fraud that might not be enough without him to testify. Then I pulled out Detective Nora Halley's business card, the one she'd given me at the funeral, with a knowing look and a whispered, "If you need anything." It was time to stop playing defense. Evan Pike had been my neighbor for 12 years and worked at First National Bank of Bozeman for 20. When I showed up at his door at 7A, with a box of his favorite bear claws and a folder of financial documents, he knew something was wrong. Maggie, I heard about Aaron. Evan, I need your help. Not your sympathy. Your help. He looked at the folder, then at my face. Come in. Over the next 2 hours, Evan traced the money with the precision of someone who'd caught embezzlers before. His fingers flew across his laptop, using banking access codes and systems I didn't understand, making calls to colleagues at other institutions. This is sophisticated, he said, adjusting his glasses. The money flows like this: your account to Harborline Equity Group, which is registered in Delaware but banks in South Dakota. From there, it splits 60% to Sable Ridge Creative, 30% to 3 different cryptocurrency wallets, 10% to an account in the Cayman Islands that I can't trace further. Can you stop it? The pending rollover, maybe. But Maggie, the 95,000 that already moved that's gone unless we can prove fraud, and this e-notary signature. He pulled up the document. Kramer and Bell is a legitimate firm in Helena, but this supposed branch office doesn't exist. Someone's spoofing their credentials. I called Detective Hallie next. She arrived within an hour, bringing coffee and a digital forensics specialist. Unlike the sheriff's deputies who'd handled Aaron's accident, Hallie listened. Really listened. "The accident bothers me," she said, reviewing the photos from the scene. "No brake marks, perfect weather conditions, experienced driver. And now you're telling me his wife threatened you. Not in so many words. She's too smart for that. Walk me through everything. From the beginning." I did. The voice message, the documents, the forged signatures, the money trail Evan had uncovered. Hallie took notes while her forensics guy, Officer Martinez, copied files. "I need more than financial fraud to reopen the accident investigation," Hallie said. "But if we can prove the fraud, we can get warrants. Warrants might give us more." That afternoon, I got unexpected help. My phone rang, unknown number. "Mrs. Whitaker. This is Samir Patel. I do IT consulting. Your son hired me last week to recover some files." My heart jumped. "Aaron hired you. Through his personal email, not his work account. Paid cash. He wanted me to recover deleted files from his devices and cloud storage. Said it was urgent. Gave me administrator access to his systems." "What did you find?" "Can we meet?" "This isn't a phone conversation." We met at a coffee shop downtown. Samir was young, maybe 30, with nervous energy and a laptop covered in programming stickers. He slid a USB drive across the table. "Your son was documenting everything," he said. Screenshots of Lila's emails, recordings of conversations, photos of documents. But the big thing, he recorded a Zoom call from Sable Ridge Creative's internal meeting. He opened his laptop, plugged in headphones, and handed them to me. The video was grainy. Aaron had apparently joined from his phone while pretending to be driving. Lila's voice was clear. "The Harbour Line structure is clean. No direct connection to Sable Ridge on paper. We'll use the Kramer and Bell e-notary credentials from that branch outfit in Missoula. They shut down, but the authentication still works for 60 days. Once we have Margaret's full retirement, we liquidate and move everything offshore. Aaron doesn't know about the international accounts." Someone else spoke. "What if he finds out?" Lila laughed. "He's too deep in now. His signature is on everything. If this goes south, he takes the fall. The practice signatures." Those were his idea, as far as any investigation would show. Poor Aaron. Cracking under financial pressure, forging his mother's signature. His grieving widow knew nothing about it. The recording continued for 20 minutes. Details about the fraud, the shell companies, the plan to frame Aaron. And then, at the very end, something that made my blood freeze. If Aaron becomes a problem, we have options. That canyon road he loves so much. Dangerous in the dark. Accidents happen. This recording was dated a week before Aaron's death. I looked at Samir. "This is enough, right? This proves—" "There's more." He interrupted. "Aaron left you a message, not a voice note, a video. He recorded it the night he died, about an hour before the accident. It was scheduled to send to you in 3 days, but I can unlock it now." The video opened on Aaron's face, sitting in his car. He looked exhausted but determined. "Mum, if you're watching this, something's happened to me. Lila's stealing everything, your money, my money from her clients. I found out about the international accounts. I confronted her tonight, told her I was going to the police in the morning. She said I'd never make it to morning." He held up documents to the camera. These are the real incorporation papers for Harborline. Her signature, her handwriting. The password to my cloud storage is butterscotch, our word. Mom. Everything's there. Financial records, recordings, emails. Don't let her win. And Mum, I'm sorry. I should have listened when you said she moved too fast, wanted too much control. I thought it was love. It was just greed. The video ended with him starting his car. I'm going to drive around for a while, stay in public places. But if something happens, it wasn't an accident. Detective Halley watched the video 3 times. This changes everything. This is evidence of premeditation, conspiracy, fraud, and possibly murder. Possibly. We need physical evidence from the accident. The car was processed as a routine accident, not a crime scene. But she made a call, then another. The wreckage hasn't been released to the salvage yard yet. It's still in the county impound. That evening, Halley called back. We found something. Scratches on the rear bumper. Silver paint transfer. Your son was hit from behind before he went over. Hard enough to send him through that guardrail. Silver paint. Tom said he saw a silver SUV that night. Sable Ridge Creative owns a silver Audi Q7. We're getting a warrant now. The momentum was building. Evan had frozen the pending transfer through an emergency fraud alert. Halley had opened a formal investigation. Samir was extracting more files from Aaron's cloud storage. The evidence was piling up. But Lila wasn't stupid. She'd know something was wrong when the transfer didn't go through. She'd run. Disappear into one of those international accounts. Become someone else. I couldn't let that happen. Aaron deserved justice, not just a failed fraud attempt. I have an idea, I told Halley, but I need to become bait. The law firm of Kramer and Bell had no idea their name was being used for fraud until I walked into their Helena headquarters with Detective Halley. The managing partner, James Kramer himself, went from skeptical to furious in the span of 10 minutes. We've never had a branch in Missoula, he said, examining the forged documents. And this e-notary authentication, we switched providers 8 months ago. Someone's using our old credentials. Can you prove these documents didn't come from your firm? Halley asked. Absolutely. Every legitimate document has a digital fingerprint in our system. They're ghosts. Professional forgeries. But forgeries nonetheless. I had what I needed, official confirmation that the notarization was fake. But to catch Lila, I needed her to incriminate herself further. She had to believe she was still in control. That evening, I sent her a text. We need to talk. I want to make a deal. She responded within minutes. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. Copper Elk, public place. No, tonight, and somewhere private. 3 dots appeared and disappeared several times before her response. Why the change of heart? The bank froze the transfer. They're asking questions. I can unfreeze it, but I want something in return. What? Partnership. You're taking my retirement anyway. I want in on Sable Ridge. 50-50. A long pause. Then 30-70. And you unfreeze everything tonight. 50-50, or I go to the police with Aaron's files. What files? I sent her a photo of 1 page from Aaron's folder, innocuous enough, but clearly his handwriting. He left me everything, hidden in places you didn't think to look. My phone rang immediately. You're bluffing, Lila said, but I heard uncertainty in her voice. Try me, or make a deal. 50-50. I unfreeze the funds. And I even have another 120,000 in municipal bonds you don't know about. We can run this together. You need someone who understands logistics, international shipping, moving money without traces. That was my job for 30 years. The hook was baited with exactly what she craved: more money and expertise she could use. Fine. My office at Sable Ridge, 9 p. Come alone. No, neutral ground. That coffee shop on Main, the one that stays open until midnight. Too public. The parking structure on Black Street then. 3rd floor? It's empty after 8. She laughed. You watch too many movies. Maggie. Fine. But if this is a setup, it's not. I'm 68 years old and just buried my son. I want security, not justice. Justice won't pay my medical bills. I could practically hear her smile through the phone. Now you're thinking clearly? 9:30. After we hung up, I called Hallie. She's suspicious but interested. The parking structure won't work, too dangerous, too isolated. Agreed. Suggest somewhere else. No, I have a better idea. I pulled up photos on my phone from last month's retirement party for a co-worker. The Copper Elk has a private event space in back. Separate entrance. Looks exclusive, but it's actually visible from the kitchen. I know the manager. Hallie considered this. We could wire you. She'll check for that. She's not stupid. But I held up my purse. A designer bag Lila had given me for Christmas. She gave me this. Knows I always carry it. Your tech guy. Martinez, can he do anything with it? 2 hours later, my purse had a recording device sewn into the lining, invisible unless you tore the bag apart. The activation button was disguised as a decorative stud. I sent Lila another text. Change of plans. The Copper Elk does have a private room. Back entrance, no witnesses. 9:30. Getting cold feet about the parking garage. Getting smart about security cameras. Fine. And Maggie, bring the account access codes. All of them. I arrived at 9:20, parking where Samir could see me from his van. He had his laptop ready to track Lila's phone, which he'd already hacked into. She's running a recording app, he texted me, and a signal detector. Keep your phone in airplane mode. The back room at the Copper Elk was perfect, private enough to make Lila comfortable, public enough to keep me safe. She arrived exactly on time, wearing all black, carrying a leather portfolio. No hug for your daughter-in-law? She asked, mockingly. We're business partners now. Let's keep it professional. She pulled out documents. New partnership agreements. Sign these first. Then we transfer the funds. I pretended to read them while activating the recorder. These say 70-30. Market conditions changed. Take it or leave it. I want something in writing about Aaron first. Her eyes narrowed. What about Aaron? That his death was an accident. That you had nothing to do with it. Put it in writing, and I'll sign everything. She laughed. You think I killed him, Maggie. I loved your son. He was just fragile, weak. The pressure got to him. The pressure you created. The pressure of opportunity. Not everyone can handle it. She leaned back. But fine. I'll write your little statement. She pulled out a legal pad and wrote, I, Lila Carter, affirm that Aaron Whitaker's death was a tragic accident. She signed it with a flourish. Now add that you had no involvement. This is ridiculous. It's closure. I need closure to move forward. She added the line, clearly humouring me. There? Feel better. Now sign the papers. Tell me about the e-notary first, Kramer and Bell. She tensed. What about it? Just curious how you managed signatures when I was in Spokane. You weren't in Spokane the whole time. Yes, I was. She smiled coldly. Prove it. The documents say otherwise. Your signature, notarized, legal. That's all that matters. So you forged them. I expedited them. There's a difference. Aaron signed plenty of things for you. This was just extending that authority. Without my knowledge, you gave me access to everything. Maggie, every password, every account, every little detail of your boring, predictable life. You practically begged me to take control. I pulled out my phone, showing her the frozen transfer screen. Unfreeze this first, then I'll sign. Both happened together. She pulled out her laptop. I'll set up the transfer to Harborline. You authorize it. Then you sign the partnership papers. Everyone wins. And my 120,000 in bonds. Her eyes lit up with greed. Show me. I pulled out fake documents I'd created that afternoon, showing municipal bonds that didn't exist. She studied them hungrily. These weren't in Aaron's files. Aaron didn't know everything about my finances. Smart. Maybe you're not as naive as I thought. She typed rapidly on her laptop. Okay, I'm setting up a transfer structure for everything. Your retirement, the bonds, all of it flowing through Harborline to our new partnership. Our partnership that gives you 70%. 70% of everything is better than 100% of nothing. You could be in prison for Aaron's forgeries. Aaron's forgeries. She pulled out more documents. All these practice signatures in his handwriting. The desperate son stealing from his mother. The trail leads to him, not me. I'm just the grieving widow who discovered the truth too late. There it was. The admission I needed. The snow started falling as we sat across from each other in the back room of the Copper Elk, fat flakes visible through the single window. Lila's laptop screen glowed between us, showing the transfer page for Harborline Equity Group. My fingers rested on my purse, feeling the recording device's subtle warmth through the leather. Before we do this, I said, I need to know something. The night Aaron died, where were you? Home. Asleep. The police already verified that. No. They verified your Tesla was charging in your garage. But Sable Ridge has a silver Audi. Her fingers stopped typing. So. Someone saw a silver SUV on the canyon road that night, parked near where Aaron went over. Lots of people drive silver SUVs, with paint that matches the scratches on Aaron's bumper. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Lila's mask finally slipped completely. You're wearing a wire. No, I'm not. I stood up, raised my arms. Check if you want. She pulled out a device I recognized from Samir's description, a signal detector. She waved it over me, around the table, even over my purse. The recording device Martinez had installed was completely analog, no signal to detect. The detector stayed silent. Satisfied? I asked. She put the device away but kept her hand in her bag. You're fishing. If you had real evidence, you'd have brought the police. I don't want the police. I want my money and a partnership. Aaron's gone, nothing brings him back. But I can either be poor and grieving or rich and grieving. I know which I prefer. Then why all these questions? Because I need to know if you're sloppy. If you killed Aaron and left evidence, that's a liability for our partnership. She laughed, genuinely amused. Our partnership. You really think I'd let you anywhere near the real money? Then why are we here? Because you have something I need, those account codes and your signature on documents that make everything legal. Once I have those, you'll either cooperate or... She shrugged. Grief makes people do terrible things. Pills, accidents. Sometimes they just sign suicide notes explaining how guilty they felt about stealing from their son. You'd forge a suicide note. I wouldn't have to. Aaron wrote dozens of practice notes in your handwriting. I kept the best ones. She pulled a sheet from her portfolio, my handwriting. Aaron's work, saying, I can't live with what I've done. My stomach turned. She'd planned for every contingency. Sign the partnership papers, she said. Then authorize the transfer. I want to change one thing first. I pulled the documents closer, pretending to read while pressing the decorative stud on my purse harder, making sure everything was recording. This clause about the e-notary. It says all documents were legally notarized through Kramer and Bell. Standard language. But they don't have a Missoula branch. She went very still. Who told you that? I called them. They said someone's been using expired credentials from an office that never existed. You called them? Her voice was flat, dangerous. I wanted to understand how you did it. It's impressive, actually, using dead authentication codes that still validate for 60 days. That's brilliant. She relaxed slightly, ego stroked. It was, wasn't it? The legal system is so slow to update. By the time they catch discrepancies, the money's gone and the trail's cold. How did you even know about the expired codes? I have connections. People who understand that bureaucracy is just an opportunity. She leaned forward. But enough talking. Sign now, or this ends differently. I picked up the pen, then set it down. One more question. When Aaron confronted you about the international accounts, what did he say exactly? He didn't confront me about anything. That's not what he told me. When during your weekly lunches he'd been skipping. In the voice notes, he never sent Aaron barely talk to you the last month of his life. He left me a video message. She laughed. No, he didn't. I had access to all his devices, all his cloud storage. There was nothing. He used a different account, one you didn't know about. Bullshit. I pulled out my phone, showed her a screenshot of Aaron's face from the video, carefully cropped to reveal nothing else. Her composure cracked. That's not possible. I checked everything. Password butterscotch. Our code word from when he was little. You never knew about it, did you? She stood up abruptly. We're done here. Sit down. Lila. Or what you'll call the police, with what a screenshot and stories. But she sat, pulled by the need to know what I knew. In the video, Aaron says you told him he'd never make it to morning. Then you followed him to the canyon. Prove it. I don't have to. But here's what's interesting. You just said you had access to all his devices. How he died in the accident. His phone was destroyed. Unless you had access before he died. Unless you were tracking him. She pulled her laptop closer. I'm done playing. You're going to sign these papers and authorize this transfer right now. Or I leave. And tomorrow, the police find evidence that you killed Aaron. What evidence? The silver paint on his car. From your neighbor's Subaru. I scraped it myself 2 weeks ago. Saved it for a rainy day. Your fingerprints on a whiskey bottle in his car, the one I'll say you used to get him drunk. The suicide note in your handwriting confessing to killing your son for his life insurance. No one would believe that. Grieving mother. Financial pressure. Desperate for money, they'd believe it. Especially when I show them the practice signatures Aaron did under your instruction to steal from your own accounts. Murder, suicide. Case closed. I stared at her. This woman who'd married my son and murdered him for money. You really did kill him. Aaron killed himself the moment he grew a conscience. I just facilitated the timeline. She opened her laptop fully. Now, enough dramatics. Sign the papers and enter your account codes. Or I call 911 and report that you just confessed to killing your son. Who do you think they'll believe, the crying widow or the bitter mother-in-law with financial problems? My phone buzzed. A text from Evan. She's accessing the accounts remotely right now. She's trying to force the transfer through without your authorization. Problem? Lila asked, seeing my face. Just the bank. They need verification. Then give it to them. I looked at her laptop screen, at my phone, at this woman who thought she'd won. You know what Aaron said in the video? He said you were predictable, that you'd always take the bait if money was involved. What bait? The $120,000 in bonds. They don't exist. I created those documents this afternoon. Her face flushed. You're lying. Check. Go ahead. Verify them. You can't. Because they're as fake as your e-notary. She stood again. And this time, I saw her hand come out of her bag with something metallic. Not a gun, a syringe. Plan B, then, she said. Depressed mother. Insulin overdose. Diabetics do it all the time. I'm not diabetic. You will be in 5 minutes. The courtroom in the Gallatin County Courthouse was packed for the emergency asset freeze hearing. I sat with my lawyer, Patricia Reeves from the Real Kramer and Bell, while Lila entered in handcuffs, flanked by officers. The syringe incident at the Copper Elk had changed everything. Attempted assault with a deadly weapon gave Detective Halley the probable cause she needed for immediate arrests and warrants. Judge Catherine Morse, a no-nonsense woman in her 60s, reviewed the pile of evidence before her. This is quite possibly the most extensive fraud case I've seen in 20 years on the bench. Ms. Reeves, please summarize for the record. Patricia stood, her voice clear and professional. Your Honor, we're presenting evidence of systematic financial fraud, forgery, and identity theft perpetrated by Lila Carter against Margaret Whitaker. The evidence includes forged documents using stolen e-notary credentials from our firm, unauthorized wire transfers totaling $95,000, and attempted theft of an additional $350,000. And the recording from last night, the judge asked, demonstrates clear admission of guilt, Your Honor. The defendant explicitly details her methods and threatens Ms. Whitaker with false murder charges. Lila's public defender, a young man who looked overwhelmed, stood up. Your Honor, my client maintains this was a misunderstanding between family members during a time of grief. A misunderstanding. Judge Morse cut him off. Mr. Davidson, your client was arrested holding a syringe full of insulin, attempting to assault a non-diabetic woman. That's not a misunderstanding. The prosecutor, Ada Jennifer Chen, no relation, despite the name coincidence added. Your Honor, we've also discovered additional victims. Sable Ridge Creative had 12 clients, all of whom show similar patterns of unauthorized withdrawals. The total fraud exceeds $2 million. I watched Lila's face change as the number was announced. She hadn't expected us to find the other victims so quickly, but Samir had been thorough, tracking every transaction through the Harborline system. Ms. Carter? The judge addressed Lila directly. Do you have anything to say regarding these allegations? Lila stood, and for a moment, I saw the performance artist in her takeover. Your Honor, I'm a grieving widow being persecuted by a mother-in-law who never accepted me. These so-called forged documents bear her son's handwriting. If anyone committed fraud, it was Aaron Whitaker. Then explain the recording, Judge Morse said flatly. Obtained illegally, without my consent. Montana is a single-party consent state. Ms. Carter. Ms. Whitaker was perfectly within her rights to record your conversation. Patricia pulled out another document. Your Honor, if I may, we've obtained security footage from the Copper Elk showing Ms. Carter pulling the syringe from her bag, along with sworn testimony from the manager who witnessed the attempted assault through the kitchen window. The judge reviewed the footage on her laptop, her expression darkening. Ms. Carter, I'm seeing clear evidence of assault with a deadly weapon, in addition to the financial crimes. That's not she threatened me first, Lila burst out, her composure finally cracking completely. How did Ms. Whitaker threaten you? She said she had evidence about Aaron, about the accident. Her lawyer grabbed her arm, trying to silence her, but it was too late. Ada Chen stood quickly. Your Honor? Ms. Carter just referenced the accident. We believe this is connected to Aaron Whitaker's death, which is currently under investigation as a potential homicide. Judge Morse's gavel came down hard. That's a matter for criminal court. Today, we're addressing the financial crimes and asset freeze based on the evidence presented. I'm granting the immediate freeze of all accounts associated with Lila Carter, Sable Ridge Creative, and Harborline Equity Group. Your Honor, Lila's lawyer tried again. My client has living expenses. Your client allegedly stole $2 million, Mr. Davidson. She can apply for a public defender and subsistence allowance like any other accused criminal. The judge turned to me. Ms. Whitaker, the $95,000 illegally transferred from your account will be returned pending the criminal trial's outcome. The attempted transfer of your remaining retirement funds is hereby void. What about the other victims? I asked. The court will appoint a forensic accountant to trace all funds. Victims will be notified, and restitution will be prioritized. Lila stood up again, ignoring her lawyer's attempts to stop her. This is ridiculous, Maggie. Tell them the truth, you were in on it. The partnership papers. The fraudulent partnership papers you tried to force me to sign under duress. I responded calmly, while threatening me with a syringe full of insulin. You manipulated me. The fake bonds. The recording you set me up. Patricia smiled slightly. Your Honor, it seems Ms. Carter is admitting she intended to steal non-existent bonds, which further demonstrates criminal intent. The judge's patience had run out. Ms. Carter, you're currently facing charges of fraud, forgery, identity theft, attempted assault with a deadly weapon, and potentially murder. Every word you say here can and will be used in your criminal trial. I strongly advise you to remain silent. But Lila couldn't stop herself. The mask was completely gone now, replaced by raw fury. She killed him, not me. Check her fingerprints on the whiskey bottle. What whiskey bottle? Detective Halley asked from the gallery, standing up. We found no whiskey bottle in Aaron Whitaker's car. Lila froze, realizing her mistake. She'd just admitted to knowing about evidence that was never found because it never existed except in her threats to me. However, Halley continued, we did find paint transfer from a silver Audi Q7 on the victim's bumper. Ms. Carter, You drive a silver Audi registered to Sable Ridge Creative. Correct. Lila's lawyer physically pulled her back into her seat, whispering urgently in her ear. Judge Morse looked directly at the prosecutor. Ms. Chen, I believe you have sufficient grounds to file additional charges. This court grants the complete asset freeze and remands Ms. Carter to custody pending criminal trial. Bail hearing will be scheduled for tomorrow morning. As the officers moved to escort Lila out, she turned to me one last time. Despite everything, the handcuffs, the ruined makeup, the collapsed scheme, she still managed a cold smile. You have no idea what you've done, she said. The people I work with don't like loose ends. Is that a threat, Ms. Carter? Judge Morse asked sharply. Lila's lawyer practically shoved her toward the door. My client is distraught and not thinking clearly. Your Honor? As they led her away, I heard her say one more thing. You still can't prove anything about the accident. But I saw Detective Halley's expression. She had something she hadn't revealed yet. After the hearing, Halley pulled me aside. The Audi's been impounded. Forensics found something interesting in the wheel well vegetation from the canyon road, caught in the undercarriage. The same unusual moss that only grows at that elevation. She was there that night. Ms. Whitaker. We can prove it now. I felt my knees weaken with relief. So she'll be charged with Aaron's murder. Vehicular homicide at minimum, possibly first-degree murder given the premeditation evidence from the video Aaron left. The DA's reviewing everything now. Patricia added, the financial crimes alone will put her away for 20 years. Add murder charges, and she's never getting out. I thought about Aaron's voice in that final video, his exhausted but determined face. He'd known she might kill him, but he'd gathered evidence anyway. My brave, foolish son. There's one more thing, Halley said. We've been tracing the international accounts. Lila wasn't working alone. There's a whole network identity theft, money laundering, possibly connected to organized crime. The FBI's getting involved. What does that mean for me? It means you might have actually saved more people than you know. And it means you need to be careful. Lila's threat about loose ends, we're taking that seriously. The memorial fundraiser for Aaron was Lila's idea planned weeks ago when she still thought she'd won. The grand ballroom at the Baxter Hotel was decorated with photos of my son. His smile captured in moments Lila had carefully curated to show their perfect marriage. 200 people had paid $100 each to attend, with proceeds supposedly going to a scholarship fund in Aaron's name. She'd refused to cancel even after the asset freeze hearing, using it instead as a platform to play the martyred widow. Her lawyer had somehow gotten her released on bail with an ankle monitor, arguing she posed no flight risk with frozen accounts. The judge had warned her against any public statements about the case, but Lila never could resist an audience. I arrived early with Detective Halley and Samir, who was running one final technical sweep. We'd received the last piece of evidence that morning dashcam footage from a long-haul trucker who'd been driving the Canyon Road at 11:58 p.m. the night Aaron died. The footage clearly showed Lila's silver Audi ramming Aaron's car from behind, sending it through the guardrail. She's going to make a scene, Halley warned me. Her lawyer advised against this, but she insisted on going through with it. Let her, I said. The more she talks, the deeper she digs. The room filled quickly. Aaron's co-workers, old college friends, even some of Lila's clients who hadn't yet realized they were victims. Lila entered at exactly 7 p.m., wearing a black designer dress that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. She'd styled herself as the grieving widow, perfectly subtle makeup, tired eyes, a brave smile that wavered just enough to seem genuine. She took the microphone, and I saw her scan the crowd until she found me. That cold smile flickered across her face. "Thank you all for coming to celebrate Aaron's life," she began, her voice catching with practiced emotion. "These past weeks have been the hardest of my life. Not only have I lost my beloved husband, but I've also been subjected to cruel accusations from someone who should be supporting me in grief." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some people looked at me with sympathy, others with curiosity. "But tonight isn't about that," Lila continued. "Tonight is about Aaron and the legacy he—" The ballroom doors opened. Ada Jennifer Chen entered with 4 officers, walking straight toward the stage. Lila saw them coming but kept talking, her voice rising. "The truth is that Aaron was troubled. His relationship with his mother was complicated, and the pressure of family expectations." "Lila Carter." Chen's voice cut through the room as she reached the stage. "You're under arrest for the murder of Aaron Whitaker. 18 counts of fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy to commit money laundering." The room erupted. Cameras appeared local news had been tipped off by someone, probably Lila herself, expecting to control the narrative. Instead, they captured Detective Hallie climbing onto the stage with a laptop. "Ms. Carter," Hallie announced to the stunned crowd. "Would you like to explain this footage?" The dashcam video played on the ballroom's large screen. Grainy, but clear enough, the silver Audi accelerating into Aaron's car. The impact. The car disappearing over the edge. Then the Audi stopping. Lila getting out, looking over the edge, and driving away. Lila tried to run, forgetting her ankle monitor. She made it 3 steps before the alarm shrieked. "That's fake. That's not me. Maggie did this. She's framing me." I stood up and walked to the stage, taking the microphone Chen offered me. The room fell silent. "My son left me a video before he died," I said, my voice steady despite the tears running down my face. He knew Lila was going to kill him. He documented everything: the fraud, the threats, the stolen money from everyone in this room who trusted her with their marketing campaigns. Gasps from the audience as people realized they were victims too. "But here's what Lila never understood about Aaron," I continued, looking directly at her as officers cuffed her hands behind her back. "He was my son. He got his stubbornness from me, his sense of justice from his grandfather, and his refusal to let bullies win from 30 years of watching me fight corporate thieves." I pulled out the one piece of evidence we'd saved for this moment: Aaron's phone, recovered from the wreckage and finally unlocked by forensics. The last text he tried to send me, typed but never sent because the impact came first. "Mum." She's behind me. "If something happens, check the cloud. Password butterscotch. I love you. Tell everyone the truth." Lila's performance finally shattered completely. "You stupid old woman. You ruined everything. That money was mine. I earned it, dealing with your pathetic son for 3 years. The cameras captured every word." "Actually," Samir spoke up from the crowd, "the money you stole. We traced it all. The FBI froze your Cayman accounts this morning. The cryptocurrency wallets were seized. Even the backup accounts you had under false names in Delaware all gone." Lila lunged toward me, but the officers held her back. The master of control had lost it all in front of 200 witnesses and news cameras. Chen read Lila her rights while the crowd watched in stunned silence. As they led her away, the MC for the event, a local news anchor who'd gone pale, stepped to the microphone. I think perhaps we should. I took the microphone one last time. The fundraiser continues, but the scholarship fund will be managed by First National Bank of Bozeman, not Sable Ridge Creative. My son would want students to have opportunities, even if his ended too soon. I walked off the stage, past the shocked faces and whispering voices. Hallie fell into step beside me. "The grand jury's convening Monday," she said. "With the dashcam footage and everything else, she's looking at life without parole." "What about the network she mentioned, the other people involved?" "FBI's on it. 15 arrests across 4 states this morning. Lila was just one tentacle of something much bigger, but she was sloppy. Her greed made her vulnerable." We reached the door, and I turned back one last time. The photos of Aaron still smiled from the walls, my brave, imperfect son who'd tried to warn me even as danger closed in. "She took my money," I said quietly. "She took my son. She tried to take my freedom by framing me. She touched everything that mattered. And you stopped her." Hallie reminded me. "No," I corrected. "Aaron stopped her. He left us everything we needed. I just finished what he started." Outside, the first snow of winter was falling again, covering Bozeman in clean white silence. Somewhere behind us, sirens wailed as they took Lila away for the last time. The number 8 had always been lucky in our family. 8 seconds of warning. 8 weeks of fighting. And now, finally, handcuff number 8, clicking shut on the woman who'd thought she could destroy us. Justice for Aaron. Truth for everyone she'd deceived. And for me. The knowledge that a mother's love and determination could bring down anyone who harmed her child, no matter how clever they thought they were. The money would be returned. The guilty would be punished. And somewhere, I hoped Aaron knew his mother had heard his warning and acted on it. His message had been just 8 seconds, but it had been enough. Thank you so much for listening to this story of justice and a mother's determination. I'm curious, where are you listening from? Please comment below and let me know what country or city you're tuning in from. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts about Maggie's journey. What would you have done in her situation? Your comments help build our storytelling community, and I read every single one.